Have you ever walked into a room and felt like someone had already made up their mind about you before you even said a word? Maybe it's a family gathering, a neighborhood potluck, or just waiting in line at the pharmacy. You sense it, the side glances, the smirks, the forced small talk. You haven't done anything wrong, but somehow the air changes when you're around them. That quiet tension? That's not in your head. That's real. And the worst part? Toxic people thrive on it. Now let me ask you something even more important. What if you didn't have to argue, confront, or even speak to make them back off? What if your presence alone was enough to make them second-guess their games? You see, there comes a point in life, especially after 60, when you realize that peace is priceless. But peace doesn't mean being passive. In fact, some of the most powerful people you'll ever meet are the quietest. They don't chase respect. They don't demand attention. They simply are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How you can make toxic people fear you without saying a single word. It's not about being cruel or cold. It's about reclaiming your energy, setting invisible boundaries, and carrying yourself in a way that makes people think twice before trying to mess with you. So, let's begin with one of the most powerful tools you already have, your posture. Now, I know posture sounds like one of those things the doctor nags you about during checkups. Sit up straight, don't slouch, right? But this is bigger than that. I'm talking about the kind of posture that speaks before your mouth ever opens. The kind that tells the world, period. I'm not here to be tested. Let me paint a picture. Imagine someone walks into a room with their head high, shoulders back, spine tall, not stiff, but solid. They're not fidgeting or looking around nervously. They take up space, not in a loud, attention-seeking way, but with calm assurance. That person hasn't said a word, but everyone knows they're not the one to mess with. That's the power of posture. Because here's the truth. Weak posture doesn't just make you look tired or older. It sends a signal. It tells the world you're unsure, maybe even insecure. And toxic people? They read that like a dog smells fear. But when you stand tall, feet planted, chest open, shoulders squared, you send a very different message. I know who I am, and I don't need your approval. It's simple body language, but it rewires your energy. Try this sometime. Stand up right now, feet shoulder-width apart, spine straight, chin level with the horizon. Feel how grounded you become. That's your body saying, I'm not shrinking for anyone. And once your body gets the message, your mind follows. You don't need to puff yourself up or play tough. Just carry yourself like you belong, because you do. You always have. And while we're on the subject of how we carry ourselves, let's talk about stillness. This one's a secret most people overlook, but I'll tell you, it's a game changer. You ever notice how some people just can't sit still? They cross their arms, tap their fingers, shuffle their feet. That's not just restlessness, it's anxiety trying to escape through the body. But when you can be still, truly still, you create something rare. Gravity. You become the calm in the storm. And toxic people? They don't know what to do with that. See, toxic folks feed off reaction. They want to provoke, to get a rise out of you, to pull you into their little whirlpool of chaos. But when you remain still, physically and emotionally, they start to question themselves. They lose control. They fumble, they get louder, and they start revealing their true selves while you remain composed. You become the mirror they can't look into for long. Think about the strongest trees during a storm. They don't flail around, they hold firm. And so should you. So the next time someone's trying to push your buttons, just don't move. Don't respond right away. Sit with your hands relaxed, your gaze steady, and your breath calm. That silence will speak volumes, and it will make them uncomfortable in a way that words never could. Now let's take that stillness and walk it forward, literally. The way you move through the world matters. A lot more than you might think. Toxic people watch. They notice hesitation, nervous energy, and uncertainty. It's how they decide who to target. But when you move with purpose, even if you're just walking into the grocery store, you send another message, period. I'm not lost. I'm not confused. I know where I'm going, and I'm not looking for your permission. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether you're running errands or walking into a courtroom, your stride can carry strength. Keep your head level, eyes forward, shoulders back. Take your time, but don't meander. You're not rushing. You're arriving. That difference is everything. It's easy to underestimate this as we get older. We might think, oh, I'm not as quick as I used to be. But listen, speed has nothing to do with strength. In fact, the slower and more deliberate your movements, the more in control you seem. Predators in the wild, they don't dart around nervously. They stalk. They watch. They move like they own the land beneath their feet. And while you're not out hunting, you are reclaiming your personal power. So next time you walk into a room, any room, don't adjust to the people there. Let them adjust to you. Because here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Toxic people respect strength. And when they don't see it in your words, they look for it in your presence. So give them something to see. Let them see posture that says, I don't fold. Let them feel your stillness when they try to throw you off balance. Let them sense your calm movement as a warning. This one isn't rattled easily. You're not playing their game anymore. You're setting your own stage, and they're not invited to direct it. Sometimes the most unsettling thing you can do to a toxic person is absolutely nothing. No reply, no reaction, no validation, just silence. Not the cold, dismissive kind, but the kind that speaks louder than shouting ever could. It's the silence of someone who knows who they are, doesn't need to explain, and refuses to be dragged into a game they never agreed to play. And let's be honest, when someone says something nasty, something designed to poke at you, it takes everything you've got not to snap back. That urge to defend yourself, it's natural. But it's also exactly what they're hoping for. Because if they can get you to explain, justify, or apologize for just being yourself, they win. They get the control. And they know it. But when you don't bite, when you simply sit there, calm and unbothered, letting them spin themselves into knots, that's when the balance of power shifts. Suddenly, you're not reacting. They are. You're not explaining. They are. And here's the funny thing. The less you say, the more they start to wonder. Why didn't they respond? Are they planning something? Do they know something I don't? Silence creates uncertainty. And uncertainty, to someone who thrives on control, is terrifying. There's an old saying, still waters run deep. And in a world full of noise and nonsense, stillness becomes its own kind of intimidation. Not because you're trying to scare anyone, but because silence forces people to face themselves. It removes the distractions. It removes the mask. So what do you do when someone throws a passive-aggressive jab your way at a family dinner? Or mutters a cutting comment under their breath as they walk by? You let it land, and you don't flinch. That moment of non-reaction? That calm, quiet acknowledgement that you heard them, but chose not to dignify it with a response? That's when the shift happens. That's when they realize you're not playing defense. You're not playing at all. And there's nothing more frustrating to someone who feeds off conflict than a person they can't rattle. Of course, silence doesn't mean weakness. In fact, it's often the strongest stance you can take. Because it means you're in control, not just of the situation but of yourself. Your emotions, your energy, your peace. And that kind of control is rare. It's powerful. And yes, it's a little bit frightening to the right people. Now let's talk about something else that speaks louder than words. Your reputation. By the time we hit 60, we've all built a name for ourselves. And whether we realize it or not, that name walks into every room before we do. It's carried in how others speak about us when we're not there. It's shaped by the decisions we've made, the boundaries we've set, and how we've handled disrespect over the years. The beautiful thing about this stage of life is that you no longer have to prove anything. Your actions, your history, they've already spoken. But what you can do is sharpen that legacy. You can become known not just as someone who won't tolerate nonsense, but as someone who doesn't even acknowledge it. The trick is to let your presence, your posture, your composure, your calm, do the talking. Because when people expect you to yell, to defend, to explain, and you don't, that silence becomes a signature. It becomes part of your myth. She never raised her voice, but you never wanted to cross her. He didn't say a word, but everyone in the room felt it when he walked in. And no, it's not about scaring people for fun. It's about creating an atmosphere where people think twice before trying to push your limits. Where they sense your boundaries without you needing to point them out. Here's a simple truth. Toxic people test waters. They look for cracks. They search for any sign that you're unsure of yourself, that you're seeking approval, that you're open to being manipulated. But when they encounter someone who moves slowly, speaks intentionally, and doesn't fill the silence with nervous chatter, they're left without a map. They can't figure you out. And people fear what they can't figure out. That's why it's so important to never let them see you scramble. Never let them see you explain too much. Because the more you say, the more they can use. But when you say less, when you give them nothing but that calm, unreadable presence, they're left playing a guessing game. And that game is exhausting. For them. You, on the other hand, are conserving energy. You're staying rooted in who you are, refusing to let someone else pull you out of alignment. And that, my friend, is true power. So the next time someone tries to challenge you, tries to drag you into their storm, don't react. Don't explain. Don't match their energy. Let your stillness, your silence, and your self-assurance do the heavy lifting. And if someone asks, "Aren't you going to say something?" you smile. And let the silence answer for you. Because the truth is, some people only understand noise. But those who live with real strength, they speak in stillness. They speak through presence. And the right people, the ones who matter, will hear you loud and clear. You ever notice how the people who make the most noise are often the ones who feel the smallest inside? It's true. The ones who go around announcing their importance, demanding respect, throwing tantrums when things don't go their way, they're not strong. They're scrambling to cover their fear. But the person who doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to explain, and doesn't need to win every argument, that's the person who truly holds power. And one of the quietest yet sharpest tools you have? Intention. When you walk into a room, even if it's just to grab a cup of coffee or sit down at the doctor's office, do it with intention. Not rushed, not flustered, not hesitant. Every step, every glance, every pause, make it mean something. You don't need to move fast to be noticed. You need to move like you're exactly where you're meant to be. There's a difference between showing up and arriving. And toxic people notice it. They're scanning constantly. Who's flinching? Who's unsure? Who's easy to sway? But when you walk in slowly, calmly, eyes forward, shoulders back, not looking around for permission or validation, they can't read you. They can't measure you. You've taken away their tools, and that alone puts you one step ahead. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming more of who you already are. Confident, steady, grounded. Maybe you've spent decades pouring into others, taking care of your family, working hard, being dependable. Well, now, it's time to let all of that life experience rise to the surface. Let it show, not in your words, but in your bearing. And when you combine that intention with emotional control, you become something most toxic people are terrified of: untouchable. Now, let me be clear. Emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel things. Of course you do. You're human. We all feel frustrated, hurt, even angry when someone disrespects us. But emotional control means you choose how to respond instead of letting them choose it for you. When someone pushes your buttons and you don't react, that rattles them. When they expect you to get defensive and you simply look at them with calm eyes, saying nothing, that confuses them. And when they insult you in front of others and you stay composed, maybe even smile a little, not sarcastic, just unmoved, that scares them, because you've shown them something rare. You are not controlled by their drama. You don't have to be the loudest in the room to hold space. You don't have to trade insults to protect your dignity. You can remain calm, measured, centered. And the more they try to shake you, the more obvious it becomes who's truly in control. But here's the part that most people miss. This quiet power doesn't just protect you from others. It feeds your own self-respect. It reinforces your peace. It reminds you that you're not playing the same games anymore. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need a crowd to know who you are. You don't need approval, applause, or even agreement. Because deep down, you've already earned your own trust. That's what radiates. That's what makes people stop and wonder, who is this person? Why do they feel so different? And that brings us to the final, most subtle, yet most commanding element of all: presence. Presence is what people feel when you walk into a space before you've said a word. It's in your eyes, your stillness, your energy. Presence says, I don't need to control this room. I am the room. It's not about ego. It's not about intimidation. It's about calm certainty, knowing you don't have to chase respect because you already carry it. And one of the simplest ways to build presence? Breathe. When you slow your breath, you slow your thoughts. You calm your body. You anchor yourself in the moment. And when you're anchored, you become unshakable. Not because nothing can touch you, but because nothing can throw you off course. So when that difficult relative starts fishing for a reaction, you breathe. When that neighbor makes another snide comment, you breathe. When the energy in the room turns cold and judgmental, you breathe and stay present. Because while everyone else is spinning in their own noise, you're choosing stillness. And stillness, in a noisy world, becomes magnetic. You may not see it at first. People won't say it out loud, but they'll feel it. They'll notice how calm you are, how little you react, how sure you seem. And slowly, without even realizing it, they'll start adjusting around you, not the other way around. And that is how you make toxic people fear you without ever raising your voice. You carry yourself with quiet strength. You move with intention. You guard your energy. You remain calm when others lose their cool. You let your silence speak for you. And in doing so, you protect your peace while reminding them that some people simply can't be shaken. Now here's the part I want you to remember more than anything else. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your worth. You've lived too much life, learned too many hard lessons, and walked through too many storms to let anyone steal your peace. Not anymore. Not at this age. And not in this season of your life. Because the truth is, real power doesn't shout. It doesn't explain. It doesn't chase or beg or bend. Real power just stands there, calm, steady, unshaken, and lets the world adjust. And you, my friend, already have everything you need to do that. Maybe in your younger years, you were the peacemaker. Maybe you kept your head down, tried to keep things smooth, tried not to ruffle any feathers. But now you're older, you're wiser, and you've earned the right to take up space in this world, not with noise, but with presence, not with arguments, but with grace, not with fury, but with quiet authority. You've got the scars to prove you've survived. You've got the wisdom to see through people faster than ever before. And you've got the right, yes, the right to protect your peace, your time, and your energy. There's something incredibly powerful about a person who knows themselves so well. They don't flinch when someone tries to cut them down. They don't scramble to prove anything. They don't perform for acceptance. They just are. And you can be that person. In fact, I'll bet there's a good chance you already are. You just haven't always recognized the power in it. And when toxic people come around, whether it's that neighbor who always has a side comment, that family member who's never satisfied, or that so-called friend who only shows up to stir trouble, here's what you do. You keep your posture steady. You keep your tone calm, or stay silent altogether. You let your eyes speak volumes, not your words. You respond, if you respond at all, from a place of intention, not impulse. You never explain yourself to someone who's not listening to understand. And slowly but surely, they start to feel it. That energy they can't touch. That wall they can't climb. That quiet strength they can't manipulate. And without ever lifting a finger, you become the kind of person they don't dare underestimate again. You didn't threaten. You didn't argue. You didn't raise your voice. You just became untouchable. And you know what the best part is? This isn't about being cold or mean or distant. Not at all. You can still be warm, generous, kind-hearted, because kindness is not weakness. In fact, the stronger you become inside, the freer you are to be kind, because you no longer give that kindness to just anyone. You give it where it's safe, where it's earned, where it's mutual. Toxic people don't get your kindness anymore. They get your silence. And trust me, that silence will say everything they need to hear. You deserve relationships that are rooted in mutual respect. Conversations that don't leave you exhausted. Rooms that don't feel like emotional battlegrounds. You've spent enough time shrinking for other people's comfort. It's time to expand into your own strength. And if anyone asks, what changed? You don't have to explain. Just smile. Let them feel the change for themselves. So from this day forward, remember this. Your silence is not emptiness. It's presence. Your stillness is not inaction. It's control. Your calm is not weakness. It's power. And when you walk with that kind of energy, there won't be a toxic person alive who doesn't feel it. If this spoke to you, if something in your heart said, yes, this is what I've needed, then don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what resonated, what hit home. I'd love to hear your story, your experience, your strength. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, Strong Elderly Life, so we can keep growing together, stronger and wiser, one powerful step at a time. Because no matter what age you are, it's never too late to protect your energy. Never too late to reclaim your confidence. Never too late to say, I'm not afraid of you. I just don't need you anymore. Here's to standing taller, speaking less, and living stronger than ever. Here's to living your best life, quietly, powerfully, and on your terms. You've earned it. And trust me, they feel it.